Voices, Connecting Community through Hawaii Life Stories, a podcast series in partnership with the Center for Oral History at the University of Hawaii Manoa, the Hawaiʻi Council for the Humanities, and Hawaii Public Radio, that features excerpts from the archive of over 800 interviews of Hawaii women and men at the UH Manoa Center for Oral History in the Department of Ethnic Studies, College of Social Sciences.
Today we're taking a closer look and listen to the earliest days of sugar in the islands. We're featuring voices from the past, part of our partnership with the Center for Oral History at the University of Hawaii at Manoa and the Hawaiʻi Council for the Humanities. It was 1835 when Hawaii's first commercial sugar plantation opened for business on Kauai at Kōloa, about 10 miles south of Lihue. The Kōloa Plantation went through a lot of changes over more than a century and a half, including different ownership, but one way or another its work continued until 1996. The plantation started in 1835 but struggled financially for decades until the Reciprocity Treaty of 1875. That allowed sugar from Hawaii to be sold duty-free in the United States. And over the next 35 years, the number of sugar plantations across the islands more than doubled to 52, and the amount of land under sugar cultivation exploded from about 12,000 acres to 214,000 acres. Plantation work brought tens of thousands of immigrant laborers over the years, and that included to Kōloa. But Kōloa was an interesting location for other reasons, too. At one point, it was the number 3 whaling port in Hawaii, and a missionary station was set up there shortly before the sugar plantation. And that brings us to our first history. Eric Iki Mor was born in 1931 in Waimea and became a well-known lecturer on local history. His father, Hector, was the manager of the Kōloa Sugar Company from 1933 until 1948, when it merged with Grove Farm, so for most of the Depression years and through the war. His mother was a descendant of the Sinclair, Gay, and Robinson families who owned Niihau and parts of Kauai. He was on the board of the Kauai Historical Society and active with other community organizations before he passed away in 1996. The interview we're about to hear was done by Warren Nishimoto in 1987.
Kōloa has a very heavy missionary influence, but prior to the missionaries coming, is there any historical evidence of what was here in Kōloa?
When the ocean was too rough to go fishing, Napali or North Shore, Lihue side, it was nice down here, and there was ample water here, and lots of Hawaiians lived here. This is why they had the big whaling port, because again, it was a nice anchorage. When it was too rough in the early days to go to Honolulu from Lihue side, people left from Kōloa. You caught the boat to Honolulu from Kōloa landing, and that's probably why the white man first ended up here. They put the mission stations where there were lots of people to convert. You know, in the early days, Kōloa had enough international traffic that the kingdom had a customs agent at Kōloa. Went down and collected the taxes for the materials brought in, the goods, whatever it is, foreign imports. And all of it was taxed. In fact, in my Scottish letters, everybody is telling my grandmother in Scotland, when you buy material, make something out of it. Make a skirt, or make a big nightshirt, or something like that. Because customs didn't charge you for clothing, but they charged you for material. So you're phoning up a skirt, right? You take some pleats in this big piece of material, you baste it, you put it together, you make a little buttonhole or something, and you say, hey, this is a skirt. And then when you get it here, you pull all the thread back out, and you make something you want out of it. And so basically they were doing this to avoid paying duty on this stuff, because there was no duty on clothing, but there was duty on yardage. In Kōloa, there's two things. First of all, Kōloa is no longer a plantation as such, as it was Kōloa Plantation up until 1948, right, January 1st, when Grove Farm took it over, has a beginning and has an end. And of course, secondly, what is the oldest sugar plantation. So this is where it all began. So that makes it historically significant. though the first sugar plantation started here, a lot of the lands of Kōloa are not the greatest for sugar because they're so rocky. Terrible rock. Especially the Makai sections down here. The ones all down to Mahalapu. But even up top, my gosh, you know, some of these lands have been in sugar for I don't know how many years. And still, every time they plow them, they come up with rocks as big as, you know, a car or half a car that are still coming up. And this is after 100 years. So it's very, very hard on the equipment, very hard on the mill for all the rock that was going in. They had a tough time during the war for lack of personnel. And by the time the war was over, the railroad system was shot. Kōloa was, I think, up close to $1 million in debt. Kōloa needed a good infusion of money, and Crow Farm had it.
Money and financial challenges, a key part of Kōloa's development at several points in its history. And what a rich history that is. The next person we'll hear from was the daughter of immigrants who came to Hawaii to work in the sugarcane fields. And in this case, they came from Poland. Katie Bukowski Viveiros was the 8th of 14 children. She was born in 1909. Her parents had come to Kauai in 1898. She stayed in school through the 7th grade, then worked as a maid for plantation managers, and later worked in the cannery of the Kauai Pineapple Company. She was also a cook at the Kōloa Hospital and then a nurse. But when she shared her story in 1987 with Iolani Hodges, she put the focus on her parents, starting with their immigration.
Do you know why your parents came to Hawaii?
Well, they came to work in the plantations. The plantation hired them, you know, so many Germans and the Russians and the Polish. So my parents decided to come with them.
So when they came to Kauai, they went right to Kōloa.
Oh yes, they came and they stayed. They moved to Kalaheo. They were given lands in Kalaheo as a homestead. You go and work your land, and you live there. And then if you live there for 3 years, it belonged to you. That's how most of the people in Kalaheo got there. The Portuguese people came from Portugal, and they all got lands there, and they worked the land. That's why they became American citizens in order to get the land. See, that's where my parents came to be American citizens. But you see, they had such poor luck up there. My parents had a place on a slope hill. So they said every time around like the month of winter months, they would raise their cane, and here comes a storm, you know, would scoop up all their cane and ruined everything. So they took a big loss. So after that, they tried to raise pineapples to see if, you know, they would have better luck. And it happened the same thing. So she said she was struggling, and with the children and all, they couldn't take it. So they decided that's how they came back to Kōloa.
Oh, so they gave up their homestead.
Oh yes, they did.
Oh, I see.
They just gave it up, and they came to Kōloa and worked in Kōloa, and they stayed.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay.
They took a contract. They had a contract, you know. The plantation would give them so much acres of land that they had to raise their cane. So you work your own cane. And if you do good, well, of course the cane goes to the mill, huh? And if you do good, well, you get the profit, and you pay so much, I guess, to the plantation, and you keep so much, whatever profit you make. That's the way it went, and that's how my dad started. My mother would go out and help my dad in the cane field. So they had a very hard life, but they sticked on to Kauai, you know, to Kōloa, and they didn't move from here. And we were all born here in Kōloa.
And where were you living at the time?
In the Kōloa camp. They had a camp there where they would call it the Portuguese camp. And of course they said Portuguese camp, but they were all mixtures. There were Germans, Polish, Russians, and there were Puerto Ricans, and a lot of Chinese, you know. But it seems like that there were more of the Portuguese, I think. Somehow, I don't know how they got the name, they just called it the Portuguese camp.
That was just a regular small plantation home?
Oh yes.
And how many of you children living there?
It was 11 We lived very happy together, you know.
Katie Viveiros lived well into her 90s and passed away in 2003. And just to continue the thread of immigration, our next history is from someone who was himself an immigrant from the Philippines. Vicente Bargayo was born in 1901 in Cebu and had dreams of being a journalist on his home island, but he had to drop out of high school in 1921 after his mother died. He got a teaching job, and then in 1929 he came to Hawaii. In 1987, he talked about his story of coming to Hawaii with Chris Planas.
Who did you talk to about coming to Hawaii?
Oh, the Sugar Plantation Association.
They come to your town and recruit?
Yeah, the agent, some agent. Then I apply, then I pass. That's the way.
How long did you think you were going to stay?
We were signing contract for 3 years. If you work for 3 years and you get enough money, then you will be good. You can come home and go home with free transportation. But how can we save money that time? No more saving. How can we go?
Right.
Or save nothing if I will stay for a while.
You were in Honolulu first?
I stayed 6 days.
6 days.
Then assigned to Kauai, Kōloa. I no move nothing, no more place. Only Kōloa I work until I got my retirement.
First, when you came?
I got hoeing 3 days.
Ohana.
Kalai,
Oh, Kalai.
3 days.
3 days.
Mm.
And
Then I applied for helper, tractor helper.
oh,
And then after 1 year working helper, I got an accident over here.
oh, what happened?
The plow. Well, it was a helper must sit down behind the tractor. So we were harrowing the not level ground, but only slippery like that. So when the driver was turning, how fast he turned the helper, then the plow touched my, I was making that. So it was underneath. I got 7 stitches here.
Oh, wow.
So I had an accident, and I applied for restore 1932. Then I was admitted. They take me in the store, and 32. I think July 26. Then after 1933, then the boss, the big luna from the plantation, told him, if you like order your family, you can now, because after 35, you can order your family free. So I asked the campo boss, Bisaya, in Kōloa, that's Gabino Kilantang. So let me apply to order my family. So they came. My wife free, the 2 children free, only half fare for my girl here, who was 10 years old, half fare.
Are you glad that you came to Hawaii?
Yeah, I'm happy, because I managed to order my wife and join with me.
Yeah.
If they were there during the war, I don't know where are they now? Maybe they died. 1933, no more war yet, huh? So I ordered them. That's lucky.
Lucky, that's one perspective, but also a lot of hard work along the way for Vicente Bargayo and for so many others as well. Our next oral history comes from a plantation doctor who started doing that work in the 1930s. Dr. Marvin Brennecke was born in Jackson, Missouri in 1906, grew up in farm country near the Mississippi Delta, and went to medical school at Washington University in St. Louis, graduating in 1930. He was not only the physician for the Kōloa Plantation, but also for the McBride Plantation and the Kauai Pineapple Company, among other jobs, such as serving as the government physician for the entire Kōloa district. He later started the Waimea Dispensary and Clinic, but he started his reflections talking about what planted the seeds that eventually drew him to Hawaii. Dr. Brennecke passed away in 1994. And when you hear this interview from 1987, it jumps out not only about the medical care, but the payment for the medical care by way of the Board of Health, set up around 1850 in the Kingdom days. The interviewers heard talking to Dr. Brennecke were Warren Nishimoto and Michi Kodama Nishimoto.
Thinking of the islands occurred to me the first time when a doctor A.B. Potter and his wife, Oma, came to Missouri U, the second year of medicine. Dr. Potter gave lectures at the medical school about medicine in Hawaii. And Oma took an interest in me, and we became quite friendly. And so one day while he was talking about the beauties of Hawaii, I facetiously said to him, well, if you ever hear of an opportunity for a young doctor in 2 or 3 years from now, or when I get through school, I'd like to try it myself. And then I interned at Missouri Baptist for a year, and 2 weeks before I finished my internship, he called on the phone, and he said, do you want to go to Hawaii? And that was it. So that's how I came down here. So then within 3 weeks I was on my way down here. I knew about Waikiki, and that's about it. I knew nothing about the economics, politics, or anything. Then after being here, I saw so many things. The public health department of Hawaii has been so good, was so progressive all the way back from the early 1900s. The public health system of Hawaii was mainly supported by plantation doctors. Each plantation doctor was an agent of the health department of Hawaii. When I first came here, we had around 300 infant deaths out of 1,000 that occurred. So we all held baby clinics, maternal clinics. We'd go out into the plantation and hold them. Sometimes we'd have them in the hospital. So we were constantly teaching nutrition. We were constantly teaching to get their shots. And this thing just started dropping just like that. Hawaii is one of the first states that had smallpox vaccination and diphtheria too.
Who was responsible for this progressive public health policy?
It's a Board of Health that existed from about 1850. It was just like an umbrella over all the islands because the medical care was for free. So there was no obstruction to them coming because they didn't have to worry about whether they could afford it or not.
Did you recommend certain foods to certain families?
Yeah,
How
we
did
did.
you go about doing that?
We just told them what we considered an adequate maintenance diet. We taught them to eat vegetables and so on. Then, of course, we talked against white rice, because as I remember, eating a half a bag of rice a month, an adult individual was potentially very.
Half of a 100-pound bag, you mean?
Yeah. People could go out and get all the food they wanted, but they just ate too much white rice and white bread, the Portuguese. See?
Our last story is a Nisei story, second-generation Japanese. Robert Kunimura was born in Kōloa in 1915, the sixth of 11 children. He grew up in the camp. His parents came to Hawaii from Yamaguchi, Japan. But what's different about this story is that he was a union organizer. He started signing up workers with the ILWU, the International Longshore and Warehouse Union, in the late 1930s. He played a key role after the war and in the first territory-wide sugar strike in 1946. He was president of the Kauai local of the ILWU and eventually went back to working on the plantation. But in this 1987 interview, he started off with memories of growing up in what was officially called the New Mill Camp at Kōloa.
The camp, see, like any other plantation, they segregated the workers by a race, okay? So where I was brought up was Japanese camp, okay? So practically all Japanese live in that camp. And they were mill workers because of the proximity from the camp to the mill. And the plantation had a strict control about that. If you were of other racial groups, if you wanted to move into the Japanese camp, you didn't, they wouldn't allow you to come in. Yeah. About 1930s, they started to, be more flexible about that. Yeah. By that time, our parents were a little more assimilated with the other racial group already. Yeah. See, the prejudice wasn't that strong in the 30s already. Yeah. Japanese say akirame eru already, take it for granted already that there shouldn't be any discrimination. Yeah. Because after all, who created all this division is the plantation owners. They wanted the workers to always have some suspicion. And that's the way I could see. Because there were a lot of unions that came up in the plantation, but strictly along racial lines. So if when the Filipinos strike, the Japanese are working. And when the Japanese are striking, the Filipinos go work. Well, I mention it because they were the two predominant group numerically. Then you want the workers to band together. At every strike, union or strike along that line, racial line, got smashed until the advent of the ILWU, which organized the workers in one union, regardless of race, color, or national origin. Yeah. By that time, there was no language, too much of the language difficulty, because more or less everybody was speaking English. You see, yeah.
What's in store for the future of Kōloa? Say in 30, 40 years.
30, 40 years from now, my goodness, Warren, that's we're going into 2020, right?
Yeah.
I hate to project that. I hate because see, when I was on the planning commission, these consultants, they said 1990 we're gonna have 80,000 population of Kauai, the projection based on so many percentage.
Yeah.
And this is almost 1990. I didn't even see what they projected come true.
Robert Kunimura speaking with Warren Nishimoto. Those population projections, by the way, there still aren't 80,000 people living on Kauai. The population in 2019 was just under 73,000. For the Center for Oral History at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, the Hawaiʻi Council for the Humanities, and Hawaii Public Radio, I'm Bill Dorman.